How many franchises get a second chance at rewriting their DNA without blowing up the locker room? How many mornings start normal and end with your phone melting because one name forces the entire NFC to recalibrate? You can feel it in Detroit, like the tunnel lights just flicked off and the stadium held its breath. A rumor isn't a signature, but sometimes the tremor says more than the earthquake. And right now, the three words ricocheting through every group chat in the city are simple, insane, and irresistible. Micah. 2. Detroit. Before anybody sprints to parade routes or panic buttons, slow down and lock in. Because tonight we're going to separate adrenaline from architecture. We're going to map exactly why this idea has detonated, what it would cost in real currency and in culture, how it would reshape the front seven around Aiden Hutchinson, why Dan Campbell's voice matters more than any anonymous report, and where Brad Holmes draws the line between bold and reckless. We'll also show the domino effects, snap counts, third and long calls, coverage shells, even how your 2-minute defense would feel with a different apex predator on the edge. No spoilers yet. Breathe. Then buckle up. Welcome back to Lions News Fan Report. This is the home for real talk with fans' hearts and a front office brain. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and drop a like so more Lions fans find this conversation. Let's work. Here's your introduction, the part where emotion meets math. Detroit is not a hope we get hot operation anymore. Detroit is a we bring the fight to you for 60 minutes enterprise. The identity is built, violent edges, disciplined interior, and an offense that forces you to pick your poison. But there's an unspoken final exam in January football that every contender has to pass. Do you have one player on defense who can end a drive without help? The guy who turned 2nd and 5 into 3rd and 14 before the coverage even has to win. Hutchinson has lived in that space, but the postseason doesn't grade on a curve. You need redundancy. You need inevitability. That's why a certain rumor rips through the city like thunder. Here's the headline you came for. Micah Parsons to the Lions is not official, not scheduled, and not close to a done deal. This is a cloud of smoke, not the fire. But it's the kind of smoke that makes football people stop and do cap math on the back of napkins. It's the kind that flips whiteboards in Allen Park, because the fit on the field is so brutally obvious, you almost feel guilty imagining it. Now let's put that idea under a microscope and be honest about every angle. Start with football, not fantasy. In Detroit's world, edges don't just rush. They set rules. The front is built to win early downs with integrity, then go hunting on money downs. Parsons is chaos with a compass, range to walk out on a tight end, burst to win from a wide 9, bend to flatten at 8 yards, and closing speed that punishes quarterbacks who hold for double moves. Pair that with Hutchinson's length, counters, and relentless hands, and suddenly your protection slides become confessionals. One of them is getting a true one-on-one almost every snap. That means fewer simulated pressures, less need to borrow from coverage, and a more honest shell behind it. Translation: your corners break on routes, not on fire alarms. Now stack the situational football. 3rd and 7. If you can threaten both edges without blitzing, you can live in 2 high and still erase the first read. 2-minute drill, you don't have to call perfect. You call pocket depth under 2.5 seconds and let instincts cash it. Red zone, compress the field, run game dies, quarterback extends. Parsons turns the scramble window into a trap. And here's the sneaky part people miss: run defense. Micah isn't just a sprinter around the arc. He detonates tight ends, compresses C-gaps, and chases from the backside like a safety with bad intentions. With Hutch on the other side, your edges stop being optional. Offenses have to choose between a slow bleed between the tackles or a prayer outside the numbers. So why isn't the whole league already bidding? Because football is ruled by 3 tyrants: money, picks, and pride. Money, an apex edge, lives in the top non-QB salary bracket. You don't add a player like that without reshaping your cap staircase. How you pay today, how you keep your core tomorrow, and how you plan for extensions that are already penciled in. Picks, a player this rare costs you premium selections, plural. That's not just a headline. It's real players you won't draft, cheap starters you won't develop. Pride, the team letting him go has to live with the statue they move. Trading a franchise piece is organizational surgery. Teams don't do it for fun. That's where Detroit's calculus gets fascinating. Brad Holmes has built through premium trenches and strategic aggression, not desperation. He doesn't chase ghosts. If the ask climbs into gut-your-future territory, the answer is no. If it sits in the assertive but sane lane, then you talk. Because the road from really good to unarguably great isn't paved with safe choices. It's paved with the right risks at the right time, attached to the right player. Let's tap the chalkboard. Picture Detroit's third down menu next January with Hutchinson at left end, Parsons at right end, Aleem McNeil walked over the center, and a stand-up joker mugging the A-gap. You can run creepers and still play coverage, force protections to lie to themselves, then punish them when they do. Your stunts don't need to be cute. Your athletes are the stunt. And the ripple effect is everywhere. Fewer snaps where a safety has to be both run-fit and seam-cap. Fewer snaps where a nickel is on an island for 3 seconds. Fewer snaps where your backers have to green dog out of panic. One superstar can actually make 11 guys play less hero ball. Now, to the rumor itself and the substance behind the smoke. Why here, why now, and why this name? Because windows in the NFL don't politely knock, they crack. Detroit's is open. The roster is veteran enough to know what pain tastes like, young enough to sprint on short weeks, and tough enough to stomach ugly wins in weather. If you add a player who can steal 2 possessions a game, your margin for error in January changes by inches that feel like miles. That is the football logic driving the noise. But logic isn't paperwork. Until a front office picks up the phone, aligns the value, and accepts the hangover that follows. Rumors are exercise bikes, a lot of motion, no yards gained. There's also the culture layer. And Detroit's culture is not negotiable. Dan Campbell has built a room where titles don't walk ahead of effort. You earn your place every Wednesday. The question with any superstar is never, is he great? It's, does he make our great greater? Does he drag practice tempo up without dragging teammates down? Does he absorb coaching when January turns your lungs into glass? The book on Micah, the player, is easy. The book on fit is what Alan Park would study to the punctuation mark. Talent without alignment is a sugar high. Talent with alignment is a ring strategy. Let's be grown-ups about cost. Say the price tag sits at multiple first-rounders and something living, not just expiring cap filler. That stings. But what are those picks supposed to become at their best? Blue-chip, game-tilting starters who swing matchups you can't scheme. There's a version of this where you stop paying the cover charge twice. You pay it once for a proven apex edge in his prime, and you accept that your next few drafts must be surgical, not splashy. There's also a version where the ask veers into absurdity and you walk proudly. Both outcomes can be right, depending on the final numbers. Okay, let's zoom back to field level and talk human beings with names on the jerseys you already own. Aiden Hutchinson is not losing oxygen in any scenario. He's gaining it. True killers love help because it creates fair fights at last. Aleem McNeil becomes a problem you can't slide away from for free. Your rotational rushers become situational assassins, not overextended relievers. And on the back end, the calculus shifts. You can live in more too-high pre-snap looks without sacrificing force. Disguise late rotations and shrink the middle windows that haunted you in certain game scripts last year. Pass rush and coverage don't compete. They dance. Add another lead, and the choreography gets easier. Where does that leave the rumor in plain English? Here, the idea of Micah Parsons in Detroit is alive in the air because it makes perfect sense on grass. The part we control is framing it correctly. This is doubt, intrigue, and conversation, not confirmation. The part the front office controls is everything else: value, timing, and the courage to say yes or no with conviction. My personal take, and you can clip this. If the price lives in that assertive but sane lane, real picks, a real player, and cap mechanics that don't strangle your ability to keep the core together, I'm in. You don't get forever windows in this league. You get slivers. And when your sliver lines up with a player who changes math, you either step through or you stay who you were. If the ask balloons into strip mining your next 3 drafts and tearing holes in a roster that wins with depth and hunger, you walk and never apologize. Because the only thing worse than missing on a star is becoming a top-heavy team that can't survive the injuries that January guarantees. Tell me where you land, Detroit. Would you push the chips in for a generational edge opposite Hutch, or would you keep the powder dry and hunt a cheaper pass rusher at the deadline? Drop your take below, subscribe to Lions News Fan Report, hit the bell so you don't miss the next update, and share this with a friend who texts you 5 times a day about edge pressure rates. This city knows the difference between noise and signal. Tonight, the signal is simple. The Lions are in the phase of their life where every conversation is about championships, not respect. And when you're living there, every rumor is a mirror, showing you exactly how far you're willing to go to finish the job.